Hello again. Now we're going to continue our study of Genesis chapter 49. In this series, it's quite a long series, so I'm going to have to break it up into several parts. But we're going to take a in-depth look at Levi. There's a lot to learn about Levi, about the Levites, who are the descendants of Levi. So, let's start with, I made notes here. Beginning in the book of Exodus, Moses and Aaron, their father and mother, were both Levites. Okay? And I'm going to go through some scriptures quickly here. And I'll talk about it when necessary, but a lot of the time we'll just read scriptures, and it's just giving information about the Levites, just so we can understand who they were and who they are. And so we just wrap our head around it. The Levites are quite complicated. They're probably one of the most complicated tribes to understand. Okay, so Moses and Aaron were brothers, and their parents were both Levites. And you remember the story of Moses, how the firstborn males of the Hebrews were supposed to be killed, but Moses' parents put him in a basket and put him in the river. And the Pharaoh's daughter found the basket and took care of the baby and raised him up. And that was Moses. So I'll just quickly read some things about Moses and Aaron here. Exodus chapter 4, verse 1 to 19. And this is when Moses is approached by God when God was in the burning bush. Okay, and Moses answered and said, "But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken to my voice, for they will say, the Lord has not appeared unto thee." And the Lord said to him, "What is that in thy hand?" And he said, "A rod." And he said, "Cast it on the ground." And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. And the Lord said to Moses, "Put forth your hand and take it by the tail." And he put forth his hand and caught it and it became a rod in his hand. That they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared unto thee. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, "Put now thy hand into thy bosom." And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, "Put thy hand into thy bosom again." And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river, and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which you take out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. And Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue." I'm not a good speaker. And the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the dumb, or deaf, or seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say." And he said, "O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him who thou wilt send." And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. And he said, "Is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he comes forth to meet thee. And when he sees thee, he will be glad in his heart. And thou shalt speak to him and put words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth and with his mouth, and I will teach you what you shall do. And he shall be thy spokesman unto the people, even he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of a God. Aaron is Moses' mouth, and Moses is Aaron's God. And thou shalt take this rod in thy hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs. And Moses went and returned to Jethro his father-in-law, and said unto him, Let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren which are in Egypt, and see whether they be yet alive. And Jethro said to Moses, Go in peace. And the Lord said to Moses in Midian, Go, return to Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life. So there's the relationship between Moses and Aaron. And this is important to understand, because Moses gave the law, and Aaron was the first high priest under the law, and it's the priest's job to teach the law. So I guess that's the fulfillment of Moses being Aaron's God and Aaron being Moses' mouth. Okay, now the high priest wore a breastplate, a special breastplate with these stones inlaid in it. And he wore this as a sign of judgment, and this would be this was the breastplate he wore when he sat in judgment to judge between the people. So we'll read a quick description of the breastplate, because that becomes important too. I mean, there's a lot of information here about Levites and the priesthood, but I'm just breezing through this very quickly. So Exodus chapter 28, verse 15 to 30. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work. After the work of the ephod thou shalt make it. Of gold and blue and purple and scarlet, and of fine twined linen shalt thou make it. 4 square it shall be, being doubled. A span shall be the length, and a span shall be the breadth. And thou shalt set in it settings of stones, even 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. The second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold in their enclosings. And the stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be, according to the 12 tribes. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate chains at the ends of wreathen work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shalt put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold into the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate, and the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains thou shalt fasten in the 2 ouches, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate, in the border thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inward. And 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make, and shalt put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, towards the forepart thereof, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. And they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate could not be loosed from the ephod. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart. And when he goes into the holy place for a memorial before the Lord continually, and thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goes in before the Lord, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. Okay, what are Urim and Thummim? Urim and Thummim were these, it's a little bit of a mystery because it's not talked about a whole lot, but they were these two stones on the breastplate over Aaron's heart. And the two names, Urim and Thummim, basically mean judgment and truth, or guilty, not guilty, or blessed or cursed. And these two stones in certain parts of the Bible seem to be used as a type of divination, where they would ask a question, like a yes or no question, and the Urim or the Thummim would light up or indicate yes or no, guilty or innocent. And so Aaron, the judge, had this at his disposal, and it was like he could ask God yes or no questions. And they would use the Urim and Thummim to narrow down, like, who is guilty? Is it from this group or that group? Yes or no? And then they would narrow it down, this family or that family, and it would narrow down and down to the one person. And they did other things in this manner, using this Urim and Thummim. And that was used as a direct answer from God. So there was no appealing this decision once it was done. So that's sort of the understanding, the general understanding of Urim and Thummim. That we could do a whole other study on just on that, but just the basic understanding is all we really need for this video. Okay, now some events. Exodus chapter 32, verse 1 to 7. So, you know, Aaron was made the high priest, and he was the one to go before God in the tent, before the most holy throne of God, on behalf of all the people. So Exodus 32, verse 1 to 7. And this is when Moses went up in the mountain to get the 10 Commandments written on stone by God. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said to him, Up, make us gods which shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And Aaron said to them, Break off the golden earrings which were in the ears of your wives, of your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me. And all the people broke off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them to Aaron. And he received it at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation, and said, Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. And they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. And the Lord said to Moses, Get thee down, for thy people which thou brought out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed unto it, and said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Okay, now we're going to skip ahead to verse 21 to 28. And Moses said to Aaron, What did this people unto thee, that thou hast brought so great a sin upon them? And Aaron said, Let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief. And they said to me, Make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And I said to them, Whoever has any gold, let him break it off. So they gave it to me, and I cast it into the fire, and out came this calf, which is kind of BS, right? And when Moses saw the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked, unto their shame among their enemies, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp, and said, Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him. And he said to them, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, Put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. So he's saying, whether they're your brothers or your companions or your neighbors, go slay them. The ones that would not gather. And it was the Levites that gathered. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. For Moses had said, Consecrate yourselves today to the Lord, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. The book of Exodus is basically the story of Moses going against the Pharaoh with the plagues, and then leading the children of Israel out of Egypt into the mountain, and them receiving the law, right? And then the next book is called Leviticus, which means of the Levites. This is the law of the Levites, basically speaking. The book of Leviticus is the law. The Levites were under a higher law than the people, because they had, it was their job to offer the sacrifices and to do all the work of the temple. And everything had to be done exactly in a perfect way. And all of that rules of how all that has to be done, how the clothes were made, how the tent was made. It's even right down to the number of stitches in making things. And also how to mete out the law, and all the laws that they had to know is all in the book of Leviticus. And it also has some events that took place. So Leviticus chapter 10, verse 1 to 11. And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took either of them his censer, and put fire in it, and put incense in it, and offered strange fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not. You see, the fire had to come from a certain place. It had to come from the sacred fire. They made a fire. They skipped some parts of the rules, right? So they came with the incense before the Lord and offered strange fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not. And there went out fire from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. And Moses said to Aaron, This is it that the Lord spoke, saying, I will be sanctified in them that come nigh me, and before all the people I will be glorified. And Aaron held his peace. And Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said to them, Come near, carry your brethren from before the sanctuary out of the camp. So they went near and carried them in their coats out of the camp, as Moses had said. And Moses said to Aaron and to Eleazar and unto Ithamar his sons, Uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest you die, and lest wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord has kindled. And you shall not go out from the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. For the anointing oil of the Lord is upon you. And they did according to the word of Moses. So he forbade them from mourning for Aaron's two sons. But he said that the whole camp of Israel will mourn, but you guys stay inside the tent and don't you dare mourn. And the Lord spoke unto Aaron, saying, Do not drink wine, nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when you go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. And that you may put a difference between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean. And that you may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord has spoken unto them by the hand of Moses. And it carries on with more and more and more rules. Like there's just tons of rules about everything to do with the sacrifices, the fire, the incense. Everything was had to be done exactly right. So then after the book of Leviticus is the book of Numbers. Numbers chapter 1, verse 46 to 54. Okay, so they ended up numbering all the tribes of Israel before this. Even all they that were numbered were 600,000 and 3,550. But the Levites, after the tribe of their fathers, were not numbered among them. For the Lord had spoken unto Moses, saying, Only thou shalt not number the tribe of Levi, neither take the sum of them among the children of Israel. But thou shalt appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, and over all the vessels thereof, and over all the things that belong to it. And they shall bear the tabernacle and all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle. And when the tabernacle sets forward, the Levites shall take it down, and when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up, and the stranger that comes near shall be put to death. And the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard, throughout their hosts. But the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of the testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of testimony. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so did they. So the tabernacle was the tent where God lived. It was the before the temple. It was the temple was made after the design of the tabernacle, and it's called the tabernacle of testimony, and that's the tent where God dwelled. With the altar in it, and there was a table with bread on it, the table of showbread, and on the other side was the candle with the 7 lamps, and then it into a second chamber was where the ark was, and that was the ark with the 2 cherubim on top, and that was considered like the throne of God, like his seat. It was called the mercy seat. So, and the tribe of Levi camped all around it like guards, and the people, the 12 tribes had 12 camps assigned to them all around that. Okay, Numbers chapter 3, verse 1 to 13. There also are the generations of Aaron and Moses, in the day that the Lord spoke with Moses in Mount Sinai. And these are the names of the sons of Aaron: Nadab the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the priests which were anointed, whom he consecrated to minister in the priest's office. And Nadab and Abihu died before the Lord when they offered strange fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. And they had no children. And Eleazar and Ithamar ministered in the priest's office in the sight of Aaron their father. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Bring the tribe of Levi near, and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may minister to him. And they shall keep his charge, and the charge of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of the congregation, to do the service of the tabernacle. And they shall keep all the instruments of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the charge of the children of Israel, and do the service of the tabernacle. And thou shalt give the Levites unto Aaron, and to his sons. They are wholly given to him out of the children of Israel. And thou shalt appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priest's office, and the stranger that comes nigh shall be put to death. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, And behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of all the firstborn that opens the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine. That opens the matrix, that is the firstborn. The first person, the first baby a woman has, opens the matrix. Because all the firstborn are mine, for on the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast, mine they shall be. I am the Lord. Remember Jacob in Genesis chapter 49, what he said of Simeon and Levi. He said, I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. So here they are being divided. So the sons of Aaron, which were of the tribe of Levi, became the family of high priests, and all the rest of the tribe of Levi were taken out of the tribes of Israel and given to Aaron, and as hallowed, as the priests that serve the high priest. And all of them were considered God's firstborn that he claimed to himself. Okay, now Numbers chapter 8. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron, and say to him, When you light the lamps, the 7 lamps shall give light against the candlestick. And Aaron did so. He lit the lamps thereof over against the candlestick, as the Lord commanded Moses. And this work of the candlestick was of beaten gold unto the shaft thereof, unto the flowers thereof, that was beaten work, according to the pattern which the Lord had showed Moses. So he made the candlestick. It was quite an elaborate candlestick, and it's like one base that has 7 lamps on it. Okay, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take the Levites from among the children of Israel and cleanse them. And thus shalt thou do unto them to cleanse them. Sprinkle water of purifying upon them, and let them shave all their flesh, and let them wash their clothes, and make themselves clean. Then let them take a young bullock with his meat offering, even fine flour mingled with oil, and another young bullock shalt thou take for a sin offering. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites, and Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord for an offering of the children of Israel, that they may execute the service of the Lord. And the Levites shall lay their hands upon the heads of the bullocks, and thou shalt offer one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering unto the Lord, to make an atonement for the Levites. And thou shalt set the Levites before Aaron and before his sons, and offer them for an offering unto the Lord. Thus shalt thou separate the Levites from among the children of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine. And after that shall the Levites go in and do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt cleanse them and offer them for an offering. For they are wholly given to me from among the children of Israel, instead of such that open every womb, and even instead of the firstborn of all the children of Israel, I have taken them unto me. For all the firstborn of the children of Israel are mine, both man and beast. On the day that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified them for myself. And I have taken the Levites for all the firstborn of the children of Israel. And I have given the Levites as a gift to Aaron and to his sons from among the children of Israel, to do the service of the children of Israel in the tabernacle of the congregation, and to make an atonement for the children of Israel, that there be no plague among the children of Israel, when the children of Israel come nigh unto the sanctuary. And Moses and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel did to the Levites according to all that the Lord commanded Moses concerning the Levites, so did the children of Israel unto them. And the Levites were purified, and they washed their clothes, and Aaron offered them as an offering before the Lord, and Aaron made an atonement for them to cleanse them. And after that went the Levites in to do their service in the tabernacle of the congregation before Aaron and before his sons, as the Lord had commanded Moses concerning the Levites, so did they unto them. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, This is it that belongs to the Levites. From 25 years old and upward they shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. And from the age of 50 years they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more, but shall minister with their brothers in the tabernacle of the congregation, to keep the charge, and shall do no service. Thus shalt thou do unto the Levites touching their charge. So you can see how intricate and complicated this gets, and the whole book of Numbers and Leviticus is like this. We're not going to look much at all at what all that means, but I just want you to see how the Levites are separated, and there's great ceremony involved, and they're separated from Israel and made the priests of the tabernacle. Okay, now Numbers chapter 16, verse 1 to 40. Here's the story of Korah's rebellion. Now Korah was a Levite. Now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, the sons of Reuben, took men. So here's one family of the Levites and a couple of families of Reuben gathered together. And they took men, and they rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, You take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Or why then do you lift yourselves up above the congregation of the Lord? When Moses heard it, he fell upon his face. And he spoke to Korah and unto all his company, saying, Even tomorrow the Lord will show who are his, and who is holy, and will cause him to come near unto him, even him who he has chosen, he will cause to come near unto him. This do, take you censers, Korah and all his company, and put fire in them, and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord does choose, he shall be holy. You take too much upon you, you sons of Levi. And Moses said to Korah, Hear, I pray you, you sons of Levi. Because now he's telling them to do what Aaron's two sons did, to take strange fire before God and see what happens. Seemeth it but a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the service of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister to them? And he has brought you near to him with all your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you, and seek you the priesthood also? For which cause both you and all your company are gathered together against the Lord. And what is Aaron, that you murmur against him? And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, which said, We will not come up. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land that flows with milk and honey, to kill us in the wilderness, except you make yourself altogether a prince over us? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land that flows with milk and honey, or given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. And Moses was very wroth, and said to the Lord, Respect not their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them. And Moses said to Korah, Be you and all your company before the Lord, you and they and Aaron tomorrow. And bring you before the Lord every man his censer, 250 censers. You also and Aaron, each of you, his censer. And they took every man his censer, and put fire in them, and laid incense thereon, and stood in the door of the tabernacle of the congregation with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the congregation. And the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will thou be wroth with all the congregation? And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the congregation, saying, Get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose up, and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, Depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. So they got up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out, and stood in the door of their tents. and their wives, and their sons, and their little children. And Moses said, Hereby you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord makes a new thing, and the earth opens her mouth and swallows them up, with all that appertain to them, and they go down quick into the pit, then you shall understand that these men have provoked the Lord. And it came to pass, as he made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder and was under them, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained to Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. And all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up also. And there came out a fire from the Lord, and consumed the 250 men that offered incense. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest, that he take up the censers out of the burning, and scatter thou the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. And the censers of these sinners against their own souls, let them make them broad plates for a covering of the altar, for they offered them before the Lord, therefore they are hallowed, and they shall be a sign unto the children of Israel. That was the rebellion of Korah and part of the children of Reuben. So that's part of the Levites and part of Reuben. Now I'm coming up to where all this becomes sort of important. Okay, now Numbers chapter 18, verse 20 to 24. And the Lord spoke to Aaron, Thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am your part, and your inheritance among the children of Israel. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the 10th in Israel for an inheritance, for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come nigh the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance. But the tithes of the children of Israel which they offer as a heave offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit. Therefore I have said to them, Among the children of Israel they shall have no inheritance. So this is basically saying that the Levites don't get any land among the children of Israel when they come into the promised land, but they get a 10th of the tithe, or they get the tithe. A tithe means a 10th. So it was a custom that whatever harvest or whatever number of sheep or goats or cows that were born, each family gave 1/10 to the Levites, and any money they made, they gave a 10th to the Levites. So a 10th of everything went towards the service of the Lord. You'll find some Christian churches do this. They ask for a 10th. But they don't ask, they actually teach that you have to give them a 10th of your money. Numbers chapter 20, verse 2 to 13. And this is the quarrel in Horeb and the waters of Meribah. We have to understand what this means. Okay, and there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people chode with Moses and spoke, saying, Would God that we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. And why have you brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? And why have you made us come up out of Egypt to bring us into this evil place? It is no place of seed, or figs, or vines, or pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take your rod, and gather the assembly together, you and Aaron your brother, and speak to the rock before their eyes. It was a big, huge rock. And it shall give forth his water, and you shall bring forth to them water out of the rock. So you shall give the congregation and their beasts drink. And Moses took the rod from before the Lord, as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation before the rock. And he said to them, Hear now, you rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice. And the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, Because you believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. And Meribah means struggle or strife. So Moses doubted when he hit it twice, and he asked, he says, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And he hit it twice. So he doubted. And for that doubt, he would not lead the children of Israel into the promised land. Verse 22 to 29 of the same chapter, Aaron dies. And the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in Mount Hor by the coast of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, for he shall not enter into the land which I have given to the children of Israel, because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up onto Mount Hor. And strip Aaron of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son. And Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, and shall die there. And Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they went up unto Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. And Moses stripped Aaron of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son, and Aaron died there on the top of the mountain. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mount. And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days, all the house of Israel. And that was for the same sin of the waters of Meribah. Okay, and now we'll look at the death of Moses. Numbers chapter 27. Verse 12 to 23. And the Lord said to Moses, Get thee up into this mount Abarim, and see the land which I have given to the children of Israel. And when thou hast seen it, thou also shalt be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother was gathered. For you rebelled against my command in the desert of Zin, in the strife of the congregation, to sanctify me at the water before their eyes, that is, the water of Meribah, in Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin. And Moses spoke to the Lord, saying, Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep which have no shepherd. And the Lord said to Moses, Take thee Joshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay thy hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. And thou shalt put some of thy honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient. And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before the Lord. At his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, even all the congregation. And Moses did as the Lord commanded him, and he took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and he laid his hands upon him and gave him a charge as the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses. So there we see Urim being used by Eleazar the high priest, that Joshua, the leader who would take over from Moses, would ask Eleazar questions, and Eleazar would use the judgment of Urim. So Joshua is a Hebrew name, and the Greek way of saying the Hebrew name Joshua is Yeshua. And the English way of saying that name, Joshua or Yeshua, is Jesus. It's all the same name. So Joshua is the same name as Jesus. Yeshua is the same name as Jesus. It's a bit of a story on how it became from Yeshua to Jesus. In the time when the first English Bibles were written, J had a Y sound in England. Martin Luther translated the Bible into German, and he wrote J-E-S-U-S. And in German, the J has a Y sound, so it's Jesus, which is very close to Yeshua. Yesu. Then also it appeared in the English Bibles with the same J, which had a Y sound. So in the first English Bibles, it was spoken Yeshua. But languages change over time. And eventually, after a few hundred years, the J in England took on a J sound, which was like what the French had. To the French, the J was always J, but to the English, a J was a Y. But eventually, in England, it also became J. So then somehow, Yesu became Jesus. It's just an adaptation in the English language. Now, does everybody have to stop saying Jesus now? I don't think so. He knows who you're talking about. Yeshua, Joshua, Jesus. Chinese people call me Lead. My name is Reed. I mean, I don't always correct them because I don't expect them to be able to say it properly. It's not a language class. It's addressing somebody with your own tongue. So people have learned Jesus as the English name of Joshua or Yeshua. There's also the same name appears also in the Old Testament as Jeshua. Instead of Joshua, Jeshua. It's the same name. So there's Joshua, Jeshua, Yeshua, Jesus. It's all the same name. So this is Jesus taking over from Moses as the leader, which is it's kind of a symbolic occurrence of a switching from the Old Covenant to the New Covenant, because the Old Covenant is completely based upon the law of Moses, and the New Covenant is a leading into the promised land, a fulfillment of the promise. So that takes place under Joshua. Now, I'll continue to say Joshua and Jesus, so we know exactly who we're talking about. Joshua was the one that led Israel into the promised land in battle. And we all know who Jesus is. But it's actually, if it was translated, if the Bible was translated correctly from the first place, it all would be the same name. So there actually should be a book of Jesus, but instead we have a book of Joshua. Or maybe there should be the other way around. Numbers chapter 35, verse 1 to 8. And the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan near Jericho. Okay, so they're on the east side of the Jordan River, about to cross the Jordan River to go into the promised land. And most people remember Jericho was the very first city that they conquered. So they're across the river from Jericho. And the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, Command the children of Israel that they give to the Levites of the inheritance of their possession cities to dwell in, that you shall also give unto the Levites suburbs for the cities around about them. And the cities, now, okay, Moses has not yet died. He was just told he's going to die, but he's allowed to prepare them to go over the river, but he's not going over the river. He's going up on the mountain to die. Okay? So, command the children of Israel that they give to the Levites of the inheritance of their possession cities to dwell in, that you shall give also unto the Levites suburbs for the cities round about them. And the cities shall they have to dwell in, and the suburbs of them shall be for their cattle, for their goods, and for all their beasts. And the suburbs of the cities, which you shall give to the Levites, shall reach from the wall of the city and outward 1,000 cubits round about. And you shall measure from without of the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits, and the city shall be in the middle. And this shall be to them the suburbs of the cities. And among the cities which you shall give to the Levites, there shall be 6 cities for refuge, which you shall appoint for the manslayer, that he may flee thither. And to them you shall add 42 cities. So all the cities which you shall give to the Levites shall be 48 cities. Them you shall give with their suburbs. And the cities which you shall give shall be the possession of the children of Israel. From them that have many you shall give many, but from them that have few you shall give few. Everyone shall give of his cities to the Levites according to his inheritance which he inherited. Okay, so the Levites are receiving cities to dwell in, and a suburb is like a measurement around the city that belongs to the Levites. So it's a place for them to have their families and their cows and their goats and whatever they have. Now, cities of refuge, in some translations, they'll call them sanctuary cities. And so there are 42 Levite cities plus 6 sanctuary cities. And they gave 3 sanctuary cities on the east side of the Jordan and 3 sanctuary cities on the west side of the Jordan. And if somebody committed murder or manslaughter or accidentally killed somebody, the manslayer, which would be like the person's brother or cousin, would come back after them to kill them. But if this person ran into a sanctuary city, the manslayer was not allowed to kill them. And if they ever left that city, then the manslayer would be allowed to kill them. So they were stuck in that city. And until the judgment was judged upon them, whether they would live or die or what would happen to them. So so that a person who accidentally killed somebody could run for refuge and be judged by the priests for what happened. If it was a murderer, he would be put to death anyway by the priests. But it was a way in which somebody who killed someone by accident could seek refuge and have the courts judge him. So that's kind of interesting. In the book of Numbers, before Moses dies, now the children of Israel are going over the Jordan River, and Moses is staying behind to go up on the mountain and die. So before he dies, he gives this speech to Israel, and he tells them all these things that they have to remember. And what he does is he basically goes over almost everything that's happened on the journey from Egypt until the place where they were. And he goes over all the laws and everything in detail, so that they don't forget. And the Deuteronomy is like over 30 chapters, okay? And it also holds some verses that give maybe a little greater detail than was given in the Leviticus and Numbers. He's remembering these things that happen, and sometimes he'll give more information about it. So just so you understand, it's with the confusion about when's Moses going to die, is at the end of Deuteronomy, then he goes up in the mountain and dies. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 8 to 13. If there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment, between blood and blood, between plea and plea, and between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within your gates, then shall you arise and get you up into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt come to the priests, the Levites, and to the judge that shall be in those days, and inquire, and they shall show thee the sentence of judgment. And thou shalt do according to the sentence which they of that place, which the Lord shall choose, shall show you, and you shall observe and do according to all they inform you. According to the sentence of the law which they shall teach you, and according to the judgment which they shall tell you, and you shall do. You shall not decline from the sentence which they shall show you, to the right hand or to the left. And the man that will do presumptuously, and will not hearken to the priest that stands to minister there before the Lord thy God, or to the judge, even that man shall die. and you shall put away the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear and fear, and do no more presumptuously. Okay, and now finally, Deuteronomy 33, verse 8 to 11. Now in Deuteronomy 33, we remember in Genesis chapter 49 that Jacob gave a blessing to each one of the children of Israel. In Deuteronomy 33, Moses also does this. He gives a blessing to each tribe of the children of Israel. And now all those things that we just studied are going to kind of come together. When Moses blesses Levi. Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 8 to 11. And of Levi he said, Let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One, whom thou did prove at Massah, and with whom thou did strive at the waters of Meribah. Okay? So, let your Thummim and your Urim be with your Holy One. Okay, that's your judgment, your discernment between good and evil, right and wrong. That's the Thummim and the Urim. Let that be with your Holy One, whom you proved and strove with at the waters of Meribah. So who is their Holy One? Do you remember when God said to Moses that Aaron shall be your mouth and you shall be his God? So let your Thummim and your Urim be with your Holy One. So with the law of Moses, I suppose. Okay? Whom you strove with at the waters of Meribah. Now that's the reason Moses has to die. Who said to his father and to his mother, I have not seen him. Neither did he acknowledge his brothers, nor knew his own children. For they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant. Okay, so remember when the Levites killed their own brothers and even their own children. When Moses said, whoever's with me, gather around me. And the Levites gathered around Moses, and he sent them and they killed 3,000 in the camp. So that's what he's talking about here. I'll read it again. Who said to his father and to his mother, I have not seen him. Neither did he acknowledge his brothers, nor knew his own children, for they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant. So they put the word of God and the covenant of God above their own families, is what this means. Okay. They shall teach Jacob thy judgments and Israel thy law. They shall put incense before thee and whole burnt sacrifice upon thy altar. Bless, Lord, his substance, and accept the work of his hands. Smite through the loins of them that rise against him, and of them that hate him, that they rise not again. That's what Moses said about Levi. And it's basically that they are the teachers of the law, and they are to put the law and the covenant above even their own family, and that the God will be against anyone that is against them. We're going to end this part 1 here about Levi. This covers from basically through the life of Moses on the Levites. Now some observations I've been thinking about from this study is that I remember in the book of Genesis, Levi and Simeon slaughtered the town of Shechem for that the king's son raping their sister. And they told them that that he could marry her if they all got circumcised, and they took advantage of the circumcision rite to gain an advantage over the town, and then they slaughtered all the men of the town. And there seems to be that the descendants of Levi seem to maybe have, there's a similarity there, where the Levites all gathered with Moses, and they were told to go slaughter their brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers who did not side with Moses. They put the covenant of God and the laws of God above brotherhood and family. So that seems to be almost some kind of atonement for what Levi, their forefather, did, because he used the circumcision as a trick. So they did a very similar thing, but they did it to honor God, where Levi and Simeon seem to have dishonored God by using circumcision as a trick. But the Levites, they slaughtered their own family to honor God. Because by all rights, the people of Shechem became Israelites. They became children of Abraham by being circumcised and entering into the covenant, and then Levi and Simeon slaughtered them. So it almost seems to say, well, it's okay to slaughter Israelites if they are not siding with God, if they are rebelling. For those times. Like, a lot has changed since then, but for those times. So that's one interesting thought about that. And the other one is that the other thought I had is that Levi was separated from Israel and made the firstborn of God, or taken as the firstborn, and they became like a mediator or a buffer zone between the Israelites and God, so that to keep the Israelites from being slaughtered or from offending God so much that he would turn on them. So that's another concept that seems to stand out, is the mediatorship set up as a buffer between God and the people. Similar to what Jesus Christ is. He's the born in the flesh. He is a man and he is God. But he is also a mediator between man and God. So that's a few interesting thoughts about Levi from this part 1 video. For the next part, we'll start with Joshua and the Levites and the events that took place during the time in the ancient Israel period in the Promised Land. We'll see you then.